Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've got everything out of the bags. So I've got the parsnips, so these in a bowl. So these have been dehydrated and then rehydrated. It sort of leads them to have a bit of a jerky texture, or like an al dente chew, I like to call it. I've got the carrot kimchi dressing. So this is carrot kimchi that we fermented for 14 days, blitzed up, and then in there you've got sake, mirin, soy sauce, and lime. So it's going to add a lot of freshness. I've also got the roasted and chopped peanuts ready to go. The spring onions, they're out. I've got the apple, and then the little herbs that I've given you. Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is going to cut the apple. Apple's one of those things that you can't pre-cut, so unfortunately that's going to have to be on you. So I find the best way to cut apples, any sort of fruit, you need a sharp knife. If you don't have a sharp knife, you can use a little serrated one. Luckily I have a sharp knife, so the best thing to do is pop it down on the board and then just cut a cheek off the apple off. And we're only going to need sort of one cheek per person. Yeah, so once you've got something like that, I'm going to cut it bang in the centre, and then turn it up, and then I'm just going to cut into about 3 even chunks, and then the same the other way. So we're going to get a nice dice going on here, and I'm going to fold the dice through the parsnip salad. Cool, so once you've got it like that, we're going to chuck that straight in there. We'll give it a mix in a minute. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some matchsticks. So these are going to be used for presentation at the end. So again, just bring it down, straighten it up, and then you want to take a really thin couple slices. Once you've got your thin slices, put them back together again, and then we're going to matchstick it. So again, just trying to keep them nice and even. Put them around and just chop the bottom off. And then you end up with something that should look like that. So nice thin little matchsticks which we can use for presentation. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of the peanuts through. So I'm going to put probably about half of them in the salad, and then the other half I'm just going to use to sort of garnish it once it's on. So good dollop, give it a nice little mix around. Grab a few of the spring onions, they can go in as well. So the whole idea of this salad is going to be super fresh, and really sort of get the sort of weight of your palate up to the menu. Next thing, before I dress it, I'm just going to get a little bit of the kimchi dressing on the side of the plate. There's multiple ways to do this. If you want, you can just put a dollop on the side. Yeah, so obviously I really like the dressing, so I'm going to put quite a lot on, so I'm going to do a couple lines. If you don't feel comfortable doing the lines, you can almost just do a little scoop and plop. But I'll show you how to do the lines. So the best thing to do, make sure the back of the spoon's nice and clean. Grab about a quarter of a spoon's worth. And this is quite wet, so it will come out quite quickly. And then I'm just going to put it onto the plate, let it pour out just a little bit, and then drag. We'll do one more. So again, I'm going to go slightly less this time, so there's a bit of a different vibe going on. So again, just pour it on, let it come off the spoon, and then drag. And you end up with something that looks a little bit like that. So now I'm going to dress the salad. So you're going to need a little pinch of salt, and then the dressing. So just a little bit at a time, and then just make sure you keep adding, tasting, until you get a balance that you're happy with. Obviously the dressing is going to be a little bit spicy, and obviously you're going to get those sort of fermented notes coming through. Alright, cool. So now that that's ready, I'm happy with the flavour of that. I'm gonna aim for just a nice line next to the two lines. So when you look at the plate, everything's going to be sort of parallel, and it's going to look quite striking. So I'm just going to start dressing a little bit at a time. Just take a spoon out. go across. You don't want to try and chuck it all on in one go, otherwise you're just going to end up with a yeah, sort of lump on the side. You're not going to get like different layers of texture coming through. Cool, once you're happy with the amount, you can just sort of neaten up the edges. So obviously with the parsnips, they're going to slightly fall over and they're going to come through. I want everything to look quite neat, so I'm just going to take a couple minutes straightening everything up. Okay, so once you're happy with the way it's looking, we can start really to refine the presentation. So you'll notice I've kept a few spring onions back. We've got our apple to go on. We've got a few peanuts, and then we've got a few petals and a little bit of coriander. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little bit of coriander, a little bit of green. The green's going to clash with the oranges and the whites on the plate already. So I'm just going to pick my coriander down. They normally come with like 3-leaf clovers, so I'm just going to pick it down into single ones, and I'm just going to dot little bits around. Next I'm going to use some of my spring onions to get a nice little bit of height. So like I say in most of my videos, the key to sort of plating and making things look good is having different angles and different layers of height. So now I'm just putting some apple on there. Again, trying to get as much height as possible. I'm just going to keep adding between the apple, the spring onions, the coriander, the peanuts and the petals until I'm happy with the end sort of look. Alright, so once you're finished, just take a step back, have a little look, make sure you're 100% happy with it, and then yeah, just dig in. So here's my parsnip jerky salad, carrot kimchi, peanuts, apple and coriander. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything out of the packaging except the fermented cauliflower puree, the bok choy and the hogget. And for the pescatarians, I'm not going to take out the aromatic dashi with the kombu and the shimeji mushrooms in. Just a quick note as well, if you see me using a piping bottle or a squeezy bottle, I've given you that in a piping bag, so it's exactly the same, do exactly the same, but I'm just using a bottle. Alright, so cool. Alright, so now that we've eaten our starter, the hogget and the puree, the fermented cauliflower puree, should probably be in the water now for about 20-25 minutes, so they'll be ready to go. There's a few more elements we need to heat up. We need to heat up the croquette and the bok choy. So I've just got the oven, just cooled it down from what it was on before to 180. I'm going to pop the croquette in there for 5 minutes just to heat through completely. So just pop that in, 5-minute timer, and we'll check it afterwards. Cool. And now I'm just going to drop the bok choy into the water with the rest of the little bits and bobs just to heat through as well. So while the croquette just finishes heating up, I'm just going to start plating. So the bok choy's been in the water now for 3 minutes. And that'll be plenty enough to heat through. It's only small. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to take the fermented cauliflower puree out of the bag and into a container, just so I can get it out onto the plate nice and easy. So I've got myself a container here, and I'm just going to take it out, try and get rid of as most water as you can, and then I'm going to pop it over the side of a chopping board, and then just with the back of the knife, just push it back a little bit, and then just take the top off. And then straight into the container. So the best way to do is I like to fold them in half and then use your finger, a bit like a scissors, and push it down. And then, as always, make sure the little bits of plastic go straight in the bin. Wash your hands. So now that's out, I'm going to get the lamb out as well. So they're in a sort of a lamb reduction, so a thick jus. I'm not going to plate the sauce, but if you feel like you want to have the sauce on the plate, feel free to. So again, I've just got a tray ready, and I'm just popping that out. There's also a thin layer of cling film around the outsides to help keep its shape. So you just want to make sure you take all of that off. So just like that, that's fine. And then lastly, the bok choy into a bowl like this. So we're not going to be using the dashi now, so feel free just to chuck it, or you can keep it for future use. Right, so now that all the elements are ready to go, and the croquette's only got a minute left, we're going to start plating. So I'm going to put a little pile on one side of the plate, and then using the back of my palette knife, I'm just going to scrape it to the other side. Something like that. And then you don't want to push too hard down, otherwise you're just going to scrape the whole thing. You just want to have a gentle pressure going down. Just flatten it off. You know, with a sort of a smear like that. Now, so I'm just going to get the bok choy out now onto the same tray as the hogget, just to get rid of some of that excess dashi. So I don't want that to go onto the plate and start running while I'm plating. And now I'm just going to check the croquette. So just grab something to take it out. Obviously the tray's going to be warm. So make sure you've got a heat-proof mat to pop it on. Now the best way to check if something's warm, if you don't have a probe, is to put something in and just test it against a sensitive part of skin. You might have seen one of these before, sort of like an old-fashioned probe. So I'm just going to place this into the middle, wait a few seconds, and then place it against some sort of sensitive skin. So the back of your hand, the little sole of your cheek there, sorry, your lip there, is a good place to test it. Yeah, so that's nice and warm. If you don't have one of these, a pair of tweezers or a small knife works just as fine. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sort of stand for the hogget to rest against, just on the other side of the puree. So I'm going to use the bok choy for that. So I'm just going to scrunch them up just a little bit, so that it gives something for the hogget just to rest against. And then, like I said, the hogget's just going to sit right in front of it. And I've just placed the croquette next to the bok choy on the back. So now that's all on, we can start putting the little bits, the little final touches on. So the pickled cauliflower stalks, just take a little spoonful, and then you can just dot them around. So it's going to cut through some of the fattiness. It's going to add a nice little sweetness to the dish as well. So I'm just going to probably put about three little spoons around the place. And then finally, we can garnish it with the little bits of garnish we got. So I've got here some of the little florets and a little bit of bok choy as well. Yeah, and once you're happy, just take a step back. Have a little final look over, and there you have it. Comfy cured leg of hogget, fermented cauliflower puree, hogget croquette, braised bok choy, and pickled cauliflower stalks. Okay, so for your dessert, as ever, we're trying to keep it as easy as possible. So you've got carrot cake. On top of the carrot cake, you have your mojito gel, jam, sort of as it were. Classic cream cheese frosting, and then your lime meringue shards. So that's going to add sort of your final level of acidity. Obviously, the mojito jam's got acidity going through it as well. Yeah, so this is, like I said, really simple. You can use a palette knife, you can use your fingers, whatever you fancy. I'm just literally going to put it straight on the plate. It's literally, yeah, it's as easy as that. And there you have it. Super moist carrot cake, mojito jam, cream cheese frosting and meringue shards. Enjoy it.